What do you believe the job of a journalist is? The U.S. Constitution guarantees our right to a free press and freedom of speech. But what does that mean for our newsmakers?
What I have always wanted to do is seek the truth, find the truth, and tell the truth. I feel like what we do is enshrined in the Constitution for a reason, because it's important, and you can't betray that trust. You have to be as completely transparent as humanly possible and always tell the whole truth whenever you can. And, trust is something that's earned, and it takes years and decades to earn it and about that long to lose it.
That is the legendary Shepard Smith. Shepard Smith is a broadcast journalist for NBC News and CNBC, where he serves as chief general news anchor and hosts The News with Shepard Smith. He is best known for his 23-year career at Fox News Channel, where he joined at its 1996 inception and where he served as chief anchor and managing editor of the breaking news division. Today on The Balanced Voice, we sit down with Shepard to discuss changes in news and the effects of opinion presented as news. Ultimately, we answered this question: how do we as consumers balance news and opinion journalism to develop a more accurate worldview? Without further ado, here's your host, Rania Mancarios.
Welcome to the Balanced Voice podcast. We are thrilled to have Shepard Smith with us from CNBC's The News with Shepard Smith, which airs weekdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Shepard, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Ronnie. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
We are so excited to have you. First of all, how are you? How are things in New York? I hear from a lot of different groups that we work with that crime is changing and people are feeling it. Are you noticing anything?
My neighborhood looks different. I live in the Village, which is normally flooded with NYU students and grad students and law students and international studies, and they're at home. And there's a new group in the neighborhood, and I love diversity, and I'm not scared, and I love New York, and we're coming back, and I love eating outdoors at night with people in my COVID bubble, and New York always survives, and I think it'll be better, like it always is.
It's interesting. I was just in Boston, and we were driving by all these buildings, and there were these like plastic pods on rooftops of all these buildings. And I know in New York, I know Boston is a little, it kind of follows in New York's footsteps, but all these plastic pods on these rooftops where people were dining were just so cool. I mean, it's so wonderful how people think of solutions to get around, obviously the complexities of COVID or what have you. Okay. But Shepard, I know our time with you is limited, and I have been so excited for this sit down. I have to tell you, when we launched this podcast, it was in the middle of 2020 was a year of chaos. And it was really our hope that we could separate, the truth from the noise, that we could pull out solutions from emotion. And I had also been watching you for the longest time and noticed that you were making a big change in your career. A lot of people said that, you were departing from Fox, a network you literally built and helped create because of comments from colleagues. But as I really read your interviews, you touched on something that's so critically important. I think it seemed like your move from the network really rested on this phenomenon between news and opinion shows. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, I think that it's always important to be who you say you are, and that to make sure there's truth in labeling. And what I have always wanted to do is seek the truth, find the truth, and tell the truth. I feel like what we do is enshrined in the Constitution for a reason, because it's important, and you can't betray that trust. You have to be as completely transparent as humanly possible and always tell the whole truth whenever you can. And, trust is something that's earned, and it takes years and decades to earn it and about that long to lose it. So we are very, very careful to make sure we're fully sourced and that we're fully transparent about our sources, and that we don't want to include opinion in our broadcast. I enjoy watching opinion. I from time to time. I don't watch that much television, but I don't enjoy delivering it. I feel like we should gather with this enormous organization that we have as many facts as we can, contextualize it, bring in experts and correspondents, and leave the opinion to others. And it's just been exactly what I wanted. And I have a really smart team, and we work well together. And we're trying to deliver every day the facts, the truth, and news. And that's our whole mission.
It's such a critical point, because I think news is one avenue, and opinion in some regards has taken over news, because a lot of people don't.
It's lucrative.
Well, and I guess that's the question. I mean, when you have shows like Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity really taking over the network, Laura Ingraham, and you have put them in the box of opinion. I love this quote from Christian in your interview with Christian Amanpour. You said, opine all you like, but if you're going to opine, begin with the truth and opine from there. When people begin with false premises, it leads people astray. Those of us who are so honored and grateful to have a platform, public influence, have to use it for public good. And you've mentioned the fact that when you start with opinion, the rules are different. Your bosses ask different things of you. You're catering to maybe the bottom line versus delivering truth and journalism. I think that message is so important for people to understand, and not enough people are talking about it.
Well, I think that there are some people who don't talk about it intentionally. I think that there are a lot of people in this industry who are in it for power and control, and some for self-aggrandizement. Some like the instant feedback that Twitter gives them. And I know some people are sort of programmed by their Twitter feedback. If Twitter likes it, I'll do more of it. If Twitter doesn't like it, I'll change. Let's build our audience through whatever platforms it is are supporting us. We don't have to do that here because from the very beginning, all of my conversations with everybody at CNBC and from NBC Universal have been about allowing us to remain in this little lane and never stray from it. We will make mistakes, and for them, we will apologize and we'll correct the record. But the mission every day is to just find it, tell it, and get it right. And that's hard. It requires enormous resources, enormous coordination. We also have to produce it all and make it right for television. So it's not as if it's inexpensive or easy. It's important. And I'm not here to save the world. I'm just here to promise those who honor us by their presence on the other side of the television screen that we're going to get this right unless and until we fail. And they can count on us to do that every night. And I feel like there are a lot of places that do that. I know Leicester's Nightly News does it. I know that there are a lot of people across the landscape are trying to do the exact thing. I mean, thank God for the Washington Post and the New York Times and so many others. But we're in a period where we need to understand the difference between truth and propaganda. And I think partly because of this information age that we've entered and a lack of understanding of it by so many people, a lack of understanding that there are certain trusted sources and there are others who aren't. I feel like this is probably going to be a tiny sliver in time when we look at it from 30,000 feet down the road. And there'll just be this one little period where, people, they got led astray by a new medium and new platforms that they didn't really understand. And that we'll get back to this truth thing because it's pretty important.
News has created news personalities that I think there's a pressure for you to be famous, to be out there, to be seen, to be liked as a person, and yet you're so private. I'm very curious, were there conversations behind closed doors of, this is good for the ratings? If Tucker says this about you or Hannity says this about you, it's good for everybody because people feed on the internal fuel. I mean, is any of this stuff staged for ratings, or is this is real life? This is what you were experiencing?
Nothing I've ever done has ever been staged for ratings. Mm-hmm. And everywhere I've worked, including my last place of employment and this one, have understood because I've told them in no uncertain terms and repeatedly, the moment you ask us to do something or that isn't true or misrepresent something, that's my last moment. That I'm not going to do it. I don't have to do it. And I'm not going to do that. And you know what, Rainey, that's not special. That's a minimum requirement of journalists. Think of where we are, that that we're committed to seek the truth, find the truth, and tell the truth is a special thing that people applaud. That's crazy. That is the very minimum thing we're supposed to do. The fine points of things, contextualizing, make sure not the opinion about them is balanced, but the way you present the facts, how much emphasis you give one fact over another fact. Think with coverage of vaccines and science in general, as we've all had to learn so much over this time. You have to learn about it so that you're sure that the facts that you're presenting are being presented properly. Maybe there is some thanks or reward or congratulations or appreciation for getting those details, getting the fine point exactly right. But to congratulate someone for telling the truth is, I never would have guessed when I was in journalism school, I don't know, 40 years ago or something, that would be laudable. But that's welcome to now.
I think that's because the standards have changed so much.
Ours haven't.
And I think the community, everyone thinks they're a journalist because they have a phone. And I think networks might feel the pressure to what's going to bring in ad dollars, where are people going to gravitate? If, you've talked about this, I'll read it for you, the quote from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I loved it. You said, are you looking for news and information so that you can make a decision about your life and your family? Or are you looking for a worldview to be confirmed? I mean, that's such a huge statement. For that second kind of viewer, when the facts fly in the face of your worldview, that can be unsettling. Sometimes then they don't like me. And in the quote, you were talking about the fact that you're sticking to the truth, whether or not people like it, don't like it, if they identify it. But that the pressure, I think, amongst others is obvious. And I think, Shepard, to some degree, it's tearing the country apart. These echo chambers that people are creating and living in. It's people that are not living to the standard that you are. I mean, it's tearing the country apart.
I don't disagree with you. There's a reason that I'm not on any social media platforms. I don't post anything. I've never had Facebook. It's not because I'm an old get off my lawn. So maybe in some ways I am. It's because I don't want that distraction. I have a platform, and then the things that are pushed out from our show are done by our social media teams, and what they push out has to be at our standards. And so I'm not looking for fame. I don't like being, it goes with the territory that they know you at the restaurant, but less of that is better for me. I'm in a smaller platform now with a smaller audience, a great audience in so many ways, but it's much smaller, and I'm much, much happier with a smaller audience that wants what we're delivering. It's fantastic. I wouldn't change one single thing. If more people come watch us, that's great. I'm sure the company would be thrilled. And I feel like over time, if we keep doing this right, that'll happen. And if it doesn't, eventually they'll probably cancel us, but okay.
I can't see that happening, because when you talk to, people on the street, we're all tired. We have news fatigue. And what we're really saying, and which it's why I started with the original point, that you made such a clear distinction about news versus opinion, and not to criticize one over the other, but to just say they are different beasts. They're literally different beasts, but most people consume opinion as if it is daily news. And the fact that you've drawn a line and you're delivering true news to people nightly, I think that people are hungry for that and they're longing for that.
Well, we have a buffet set up, so come chow.
This balanced conversation is made possible by Brigitte and Bashar Kalai, Hallie Vanderheider, Sippy and AJ Karana, and Deepwater Productions. If you're interested in furthering our mission of facilitating balanced conversations, offering real solutions, contact us at thebalancedvoicepodcast.com.
You are a private person. You've been clear about that, but you are a personality. You've dealt with a lot of personalities in your career. We've seen the culture change and the community change, where there's like this call, if you don't like a newscaster, an anchor, a reporter, to call them out in public, to make them uncomfortable in public. I mean, have you ever experienced that? And what do you think when you see it against people who maybe you don't like, or just, you disagree with fundamentally? But is that really where we're going?
Oh, of course. Stalked and people at the door and people flying in and thousands of tweets at you, and just they come from every single direction. You know, it's weird, but there's no world where it would ever begin to affect what I do. So it's a thing that I've, to the best of my ability, I ignore. There are times when it shows up in my family, when packages arrive at my 90-year-old father's house, or, people work to infiltrate our lives, and it's all happened, all of it. And it comes with the territory. If you put yourself in a public position, you have to be ready for the public to come for you. And you have to be strong. And if you're not strong enough, you have to get stronger. And you just soldier on and stick to the mission, and trust the people around you within your work team, and thank God for your loved ones. My partner, Gio, he's been through all of this with me for the last 9 or 10 years, and it makes us all stronger, and it gives us more resolve. And here in our teaching hospital with a lot of young journalists, you try to set an example about when it happens to you, here's what you do. You keep digging, and you keep speaking truth to power, because you have a responsibility to do this. And the moment you don't feel like you can take it anymore, stop doing it. There are plenty of other ways to earn a living.
But do you blame the shift in news for that? When you started 20, 30, 40 years ago, you mentioned it wasn't like this.
No, it wasn't.
Do you blame the shift in opinion news and the fact that we added opinion and bias and emotion, and the average person can't tell the difference sometimes, or doesn't?
I think there's a lot of things are to blame. I mean, people who present non-truth as truth are doing a terrible thing, and consumers should recognize that and punish them. And people who are not good consumers of news and surf around on untrusted sources and then further spread nonsensical crap or conspiracy theories, they should be shunned. These are my opinions about these things. People who spread lies should be treated as the liars they are, and they shouldn't have a place in a platform of influence. That's just it. I mean, if you screw up, it's one thing, but if you are propagating a lie, society should chew you up and spit you out. And so I put a lot of this on consumers of news. You can't, you find out somebody's been lying to you for a year or two or however long it is, and you go back and go, wow, well, that turned out not to be true, and that was total crap, and that he or she should have known that was not true, and you keep watching them or reading them or listening to their podcast, that's on you. That's your fault, and you're part of the problem. And
I think I don't mean to go back to this, to Tucker Carlson, but it was eye-opening for me when I was diving into what you've been doing and the lawsuit against the show. The U.S. District Judge response said the general, in a statement from Fox's lawyer, said the general tenor of Tucker Carlson's show should then inform a viewer that Carlson is not, this is a quote, stating actual facts about topics he discusses, and is instead engaging in, quote, exaggeration and, quote, non-literary commentary. What concerns me is that's the argument from the network. But the consumer, you're right, it's on us, but a lot of us don't even understand that the opinion is not based on fact itself, that it's an exaggeration or not. That's actually frightening.
Well, I read what you just quoted from, obviously, and we have to be better consumers. I'm not a critic, and the last thing, like I said, I don't seek to change the world, and I don't seek headlines, and I don't need to get in the middle of what is right and wrong. I need to make sure every single day I'm doing right, and I need great editors and great producers and great managers to help me, and I need to help them, and we have to do this as a team. And those who are doing something else, look, Rachel opines every night. But my observation is Rachel begins with truth and then lets you know how she feels about it. But it's well researched and she dives in. And I like Rachel Maddow's show, and I enjoy watching it. I also know she's an opinion leader, and she's good at it. There are others who don't do what she does, and I don't watch them. I'll occasionally see the clips because you can't avoid it, because that clickbait is what they are living off of. And as long as we're consuming it, it's going to exist. It makes money, lots and lots and lots of money. So as long as advertisers are willing to, if there are advertisers who are willing to be there and people who want to consume, this problem is going to exist. Maybe there's some sort of regulatory agency, but I'm not a real big fan of policing speech in America. I'm all about no crying fire in a crowded room or in a theater, but these platforms that host this stuff and these companies that permit this stuff are not in favored nation status for me, and I don't support those who lie to me, generally speaking, in all of life.
I loved reading about how obviously you are so particular. You work so hard on your newscast. You have an entire team. You want comments. You check your facts. And you described what it was like doing what you do over the last couple of years when there would be a White House briefing or a shift in talking points, or the day's headline would literally change right before you went on air. How was that like for you? I mean, I think it's the art of your professionalism, but I love hearing behind the scenes. How was that for you?
Well, I've always approached it the same way. And I felt like it was a good approach that journalism professors and people I respect and admire have signed on to. And that is, if someone tells you a demonstrable lie, you can't, and it's live, you have to stop and correct the lie. That was always the rule. And honestly, it didn't come along that often. I was usually speaking to trusted sources and, generally. And then when we were getting a flood of demonstrable lies from the White House, when one would, poof, there it is in my hour and it's over, I have to fix it. I can't, because that if you look on the program guide, that has my name on it, and I can't just let that stand. And of course that created incoming, because the way that we know how they manipulate us all, they shame us and they beat us up so that we stop. They call us the enemy of the people, so that, their faithful will believe only them and not the truth tellers out here, at least the ones who are trying to tell the truth. So they try to beat us the hell up. But I found that fairly amusing. I mean, when the last president would tweet crap about me after I had just told the truth on TV, hello, Mr. President, thank you for watching. Also, stop lying to us, please, because it's really messing up the nation. And it's not as if this all started under the last administration. It didn't. And it's not as if the nation wasn't ripe for these conspiracy theories and, at very best, half-truths and so often a pack of lies. We were ready for it. We were so divided that we just wanted to hear ourselves coming back from other places. Well, here we are. And I feel like there'll be an event, I thought for a while the pandemic might do it. 15 days to decrease the spread, and masks in, COVID vaccine. It hasn't done it yet. Waiting.
It's interesting, when the COVID pandemic broke last March 2020, I don't even know what year we're in anymore, 2020. I remember thinking originally, this is going to bring us together. This is actually going to bring us together. And very quickly it became another political tool in a toolbox.
I thought this is going to be something coming at us in the way sort of that 9/11 came at us and we united, or in the way, there have just been so many, World War II, so many, but no, now that I've read about 1918, this happened then too. We're just repeating the same crap we did then socially. I hope that the Roaring 20s follow. I'm holding out for that.
I'm with you on that.
At Crime Stoppers of Houston, we strive to present non-biased data that reports holistically on pressing crime trends in the greater Houston area and beyond. We are eager to announce our groundbreaking report released this month on the outcomes of human trafficking related cases in Harris County from January 2018 to December 2020. Our findings are staggering. We've found that 67% of defendants charged in state courts receive sentences of 5 years or less or community supervision, and that 90% of offenders charged did not have to register as sex offenders after conviction. We remain committed to reporting on facts and providing real solutions in all aspects of our organization. To read the full human trafficking report and get involved with our prevention programming, check out the link in our show notes at thebalancedvoicepodcast.com.
So your critics might call you political. Anyone that disagrees with your position will call you political. You're saying you're just telling the truth, but you have a lot of quotes going back many, many years that say, you actually don't care for politics. And these quotes I pulled back from years and years and years ago. One of them, you were advising people not to fall to either political line, and you don't enjoy the political side of it.
I don't. I've never enjoyed the political side of it. I don't like the way politics works. I remember once, I think Newt Gingrich came out and endorsed Mitt Romney after they had been just fighting and calling each other horrible names. And I looked at the camera and I'm like, politics is weird and creepy and completely separated from everything connected to reality. Sometimes that's how it is. And sometimes it's not. But in my lane is all about, just one thing. And people say, oh, well, you're political when I tell them how we sort of our organizing principles for our newscast. Obviously, the pandemic, the information age, and the way all that we're discussing surrounding it, social justice, the importance of it, how we cover it, where it takes us as a nation and as a world, income inequality, how to fix it, because if we don't, history tells us it will destroy us, and then climate. Because we know that there will come a day when we look back on all of this, the pandemic and the social unrest and the crap at the White House, we'll look at all of that and go, well, that was easy compared to what's coming with climate change unless we do something. And some will say, okay, well, you're obviously liberal. Those are not liberal or conservative issues. Those are the issues of our time. And if talking about them or trying to figure out how to report on them equitably and trying to make our newscast look like America, it's diverse, it comes from different backgrounds, it speaks many languages, has had many life experiences. If all of that is liberal, we're in a mess. Because those are the issues of our life at this moment. And those are the stories that we're going to cover. And I'm not interested in your back and forth, blah, blah, blah politics. I don't have time.
As I'm watching you, I'm thinking about the most recent shooting and your comments. And I have to just say, you said, yet again in America, we search our souls for answers, beg our leaders for solutions that thus far have not come. Each time we hear kids cry, parents pray, and politicians promise, and then it happens again in America. And you've been talking about gun violence in America from the Parkland shootings, Sandy Hook. I'm curious about your thoughts on this. We run one of the largest school safety programs in the state of Texas. We have been in the Houston area since 1980 and schools since 1997. And we have managed to pull out weapons from schools before they could ever, ever, ever be used against a kid, at 280 actually to date, before they could ever be used against one child. And as we push to get that message out, I sometimes feel like people really don't want a solution. I mean, we have a solution here in Houston. And actually our governor, following the Santa Fe shooting, recognized the solution and asked us to train all of the schools across the state of Texas, all the other organizations like ours across the state of Texas. What is your message for an organization like ours? How do we get our solution out in the mainstream when, we're with you in terms of this frustration with gun violence? We cannot lose another child's life. Politics is moving too slow. People are so divided on this issue. I actually don't feel like there's going to be reconciliation anywhere, but we have a solution. How do we get it out there?
I don't know. I do know that there's a lot of money involved and that I'm positive I don't know what the solution is, because I don't know if, nobody's calling for taking up all your guns. We've done a lot of research on it. This is a data house. No one is calling for that. No one says we're going to come to your house and get your guns. But that's the narrative. And if that's going to be the narrative and it's going to be allowed to stand, I don't know how there's ever a solution. There's an argument that if you take away the guns from the good people, only bad people have guns. You can't say that it's completely invalid. I don't have any idea what the answers are, but I think that as a nation, we need to bring together the best and the brightest that we have and recognize that we got to stop killing our children. I was at Columbine, and I've been at most of them. I was at Virginia Tech. I was Luke Woodham at Pearl High School in Pearl, Mississippi back in the 90s. If people could see it the way I see it, if people could see those children after Columbine, if they could see their faces, they would demand change. And when after an entire school at Sandy Hook is shot up and conspiracy theorists are allowed to come for the victims, and we still can't come together on just demanding some sort of solution to this problem. I don't know. We're the only place in the world. I have no idea how to fix this. I feel like if you get all the money out of it and you bring facts and truth and research and data that is unblemished and unquestionable, we might be able to get somewhere. But I don't see a world where that happens. How you get the industry money out of it, I don't know how you do that, but I wish you Godspeed.
Shepard Smith, we are so thrilled to have had you on the Balanced Voice podcast. We will keep doing the work of our nonprofit organization, and we're very proud of the work we get to do. And we will keep partnering with our news partners, our law enforcement partners, to bring information that helps the community and society. You do that every day. We're so, so, so thankful for this time. We wish you all the best. Thank you for being on our podcast.
Rania, thank you. Stay safe and well.
Thanks for tuning in to today's Balanced Conversation. You can find real solutions and tangible resources in our show notes at thebalancedvoicepodcast.com. To join the conversation, follow us on Instagram at The Balanced Voice Podcast and on Twitter at @BalancedVoice_. Stay up to date on Rania's work by following her at The Rania Report, and we can't wait to see you next week for another Balanced Conversation.